Hey everybody, Mike here. Have you had it with commercial campground clutter? Well, stay tuned. In our interview of the week, the new owner of Harvest Hosts talks about his organization and how it connects RVers with great places to overnight at wineries, farms, and many attractions across the country. Well, Joel Holland joins us right now from his home in Vail, Colorado. Well, Joel, if I had a place in Vail, Colorado, I don't know if I'd be an RVer. You've got the best of both worlds up there.
Well, thank you. So my wife and I moved here 2 years ago from Washington, D.C. We kind of just hit this breaking point. We were tired of the congestion and the traffic. We'd always wanted to live in the mountains, and we did it. We jumped in the RV and drove across country. And I'll say, actually, as an RVer, Colorado is a great jumping off point because we're able to. I mean, we were in Moab last weekend, and that's only about 3.5 hours away. So it's
You,
nice and central.
you truly are in the central part of the country. I want to do, if not next year, I want to do like a circle tour of Colorado, and maybe we can get involved with you guys there and stay in some of those great places that are part of Harvest House. Well, let's talk about that. Our regular listeners and viewers know that one of my key gripes about the whole RV lifestyle is the bill of goods that were sold on one hand by the industry that you can find these great wonderful campgrounds and these idyllic settings, and there are some out there, but for most of them, most people who get out there, it's commercial campground clutter, I call it, almost like ghettos. These are old campgrounds. The industry can't keep up with the demand. And so we've turned a lot to boondocking. We love the wilderness, but there is a whole nother area which arguably may be the best way to stay, and that's where Harvest Host comes in. And for those who are watching this and listening and are not familiar with Harvest House, give us a minute summary of how it came to be and where it is right now.
Perfect. So I'm with you. My wife and I, we love RVing because we feel this sense of freedom, unbridled freedom when we're driving down the road. And that illusion of freedom is crushed when we reach many of these campgrounds where, at best, they're just all the same. And you're 10 feet away from your neighbor. So Harvest Hosts is a unique camping experience. We have over 600 hosts in the program: farms, wineries, breweries, distilleries, a lot of unique locations like lavender farms, alpaca farms. And the idea is you pay $49 a year to Harvest Hosts, and you can then stay at any of these hosts for free. And then as a good guest, we hope that you give back a little, buy some local wines, when I went to an alpaca farm recently, I bought a really nice alpaca scarf for my wife. It was still less than staying at a traditional campground, and the experience was phenomenal. I mean, I stayed on a 1,000-acre farm, and I parked my RV looking over this just endless Kansas farm vista, and it was wonderful, and it was that freedom I was looking for.
Now, $49 to join, and that's for a year's membership. And by the way, we'll mention at the end of this interview a way our viewers, our listeners, can get a discount off of that and get a part of it. But so you go to the website or an app, and how do they find these places as they're traveling around the country?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways you can search. If you use the website, you can either search by state, you can search by host name, you can search by type, or you can actually put your route in. And so I like to use a route planner. So I'll say starting in Vail, Colorado, ending in Charlottesville, Virginia. And in that case, it'll route you probably down 70 and show you all the different hosts that are very close to your route. And that's how I've found most of the locations I've stayed.
So when you find the host, you don't just pull in. You should give them a call, right, and tell them that
Yes.
you're coming, and make sure they're open, or they leave the gate open for you. Where typically do people stay, and are there any services or hookups at those places?
Yes, great question. So like you mentioned, on our website or on the app, we give contact information for the host. Typically, it's a phone number you call and say, "Hi, I'm with Harvest Hosts. I'd like to visit you tomorrow and stay with you for the night. Do you have availability?" And it's almost all dry camping, so it's almost entirely boondocking. Some hosts do offer hookups, but that is not, I'd say those are the exceptions. Typically you're coming in, make sure you have a fully self-contained vehicle, a bathroom, some water. And the locations all vary. So I've stayed now at a number of vineyards. A lot of times they try to, either you're staying in the parking lot or somewhere pretty scenic, right near the vines. And on the farms, really there's a lot of times that you show up and they say, here's the property, park either in this location or this location, but you have a lot of flexibility.
And just looking at some of the photos of some of the places that are offered, they're just stunning. I mean, beautiful places and in great areas. I mean, how can you go wrong with an alpaca farm? I noticed some of the other places looking at the list, the Mount Washington Cog Railroad, the Golden Spike Tower and Visitor Center, the largest rail yard. That is pretty cool in the Midwest there. The Gulf Coast Gator Ranch. Those are just some of the examples. And of course, you mentioned the lavender farm, which is called Purple Haze, by the way, which is great.
Yeah.
I stayed at a winery once as we were coming up from the south, and I think what I'm going to do is our next big road trip is in about 2 weeks, and we're heading from roughly Michigan down to the Florida, Mississippi, Alabama coast. And I'll plug it in, and we'll actually show folks what these are like as we go along.
Wonderful.
Now, there are no hookups. Many of our people travel with pets. So what's your advice to them with pets? Because farms have dogs often running around. And what's the advice on pets?
Yes. And so when you actually pull up the host page, either on the website or on the app, we'll show you whether they're pet friendly. And that's actually one of the sections because we know that many RVers, myself included, travel with pets. Some farms are perfectly fine with pets. Some are not, but they always tell you on their page whether they are or not.
All right. So just be smart, check up. And if you do bring pets, we don't have to tell people, clean up after them. RVers know that. And,
yes.
And that's great. So the only cost when you're there is do some shopping. If you're in a winery, sample the wine. If you're at a farm, maybe pick up some produce. It sounds like, how would you describe this camp? It's boondocking or dry camping, but it's on a higher level than being in the wilderness. Give us a sense of, you mentioned a few of the places, we've talked to about some others. What's it like out there at a Harvest Host site?
Yeah, so to me, you kind of mentioned it. There's 3 categories. You have your traditional campground, and sometimes that's great. You just need to hook up, turn on the air conditioner, and sit back. And those serve a purpose, and they're everywhere. You've got true boondocking out in the wilderness or in some of the parks, and those are also quite nice, very remote. But sometimes you want a little bit of culture, and that's, I think, where Harvest Host comes in. I think we provide access to those the hidden gems of America. And I mean, I went to a vineyard 2 weeks ago in Kansas. I never thought about Kansas as a state for growing wine. I've always driven through it on 70, not thought much about it. And here I was meeting these wonderful hosts that took me on a full tour of the property. The winemaker actually showed me how he makes the wine, and they make really unique fruit wines. So I tried a plum wine that was really good, and he walked me through the whole process. So at the end of the day, I felt like I'd made 2 new friends, learned something, and had a very, very enjoyable stay.
Are you often alone? Are you usually often the only RVer, or are there just a couple others there, or do these get pretty crowded at times?
No, so let's see. I've stayed this year at about 5 of them, and only one time was there another RV,
Really?
and that was a pretty popular vineyard in Tennessee. So typically you have the place to yourself.
No campground clutter.
Zero. I mean, zero. And there's something nice about showing up at the end of the day and feeling space and quiet. And again, it just keeps that whole concept of freedom. And I love that.
Now, Joe, you've recently bought Harvest Host after the founders have kind of retired, and we had them on the program about a year ago. What can we join this thing? What can we look forward to as Joel Howard takes over?
Yeah. So it's funny. I used the program. I fell in love with the program, and I then reached out to Don and Kim Green, who were running it. And I said, look, I genuinely love what you've built. I would be honored if you would sell it to me. I want to be a good steward of the program. I want to grow the program responsibly. And And we got to know each other over a few months, and actually just recently finished the transaction in May. So they did so many things correctly that there's not a ton for me to do. I will say we're going to focus on improving the technology. So the last company I started was a technology company. So we're going to rebuild the website, rebuild the app, and make it a lot easier for members to find hosts and then actually stay with them. And we're going to add a lot of new hosts to the program. I think that's what I'm excited about. Just the other day, I added a distillery here in Colorado, and I think there are thousands of cool places around this country that should be in the program.
Yeah, it's great for both the hosts and, of course, for RVers. I'm just looking at your statistics. 621 Harvest hosts in the program today. That's a lot. 291 wineries, 34 breweries and distilleries, 164 farms. You've got museums and attractions, 86 of those, and 3 restaurants of all things. So, you can really plan a trip and not have to go through that commercial campground clutter or have to be struggling with reservations. Well, Joel Holland, I think this is a great program. We're going to talk about it in the future on our podcast. And let's talk now for those who are following us either on the podcast or through YouTube, how they can get in a little cheaper than that $49.
Yeah, and so we're very big fans of what you've done with RV Lifestyle, and we would love to offer your listeners, your readers, a 10% discount on the program. So when you're signing up on our website, just enter the coupon code RV Lifestyle all together, all caps. It probably doesn't matter, but RV Lifestyle, one word, and that should knock $5 off your membership.
Okay, and the website again, the address is
harvesthosts.com.
Pretty easy, harvesthost.com. And I got to do one more thing. I need to put up a picture of your RV. Why don't you tell everybody about what the Hollands are driving around with?
Yeah, so we actually we drive around in a Reflection by Grand Design. So it's a 33-foot fifth wheel, and we just recently had the entire thing wrapped head to toe in Harvest Host branding, and That's actually it's been a lot of fun as we drive down the highway and pull into campgrounds or gas stations. We get a lot of questions about it, but we're very proud of the program. So I'm excited to wear it as a badge of honor.
I've actually thought about doing a wrap on our RV as well. RV lifestyle is seen in YouTube and all that. But then I don't know.
No, you really should. I think that'd be a good look for you.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun too. I don't know if Jennifer would go for that. Well, Joel, we'll see you out there on the road. We'll be talking a lot about you guys going forward. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to follow one of the routes I'm doing, and we'll give people a sense of what it's like out there. And I think the encouraging thing is that you don't have to stay in a campground ghetto. You don't have to be. Now, there's some great campgrounds, and the industry is trying to build new ones. Don't get me wrong there, folks. But the fact of the matter is most campgrounds are overfilled, overbooked, and many of them need a lot of repair. That's not the case, as you'll find when you're out there enjoying the beauty that Harvest Host offers at many of its member sites. Joel Holland, thanks so much for being on the program and being our interview of the week.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
We'll put that link to Harvest Host and that coupon code RV Lifestyle in the link below this video. I'm Mike Wendland. Hey, before you go, please subscribe to our RV Lifestyle channel right here on YouTube.